With Bethesda having given away Morrowind for free to folks on their Bethesda.net platform, many folks have asked me various questions about the game. First and foremost, what is the best way to play Morrowind these days? And Morrowind is a great game, but it suffers from some pretty major issues. Save file bloat, eventual file corruption, and the instability that comes from playing a particular save file way too long, even in the vanilla engine, but greatly exacerbated by any kind of mods that you may want to use. These problems are because this was Bethesda's first foray into the Gamebryo engine. They would eventually rebrand Gamebryo to the creation engine for Skyrim, but you can see how the engine may not necessarily be the best the way they were using it. Now, thankfully for Morrowind, the community has long since created an open-sourced alternative to the vanilla engine called the OpenMW engine, which is short for Open Morrowind. Obviously, by saying OpenMW, they subvert the Morrowind trademark, which is a good thing. And all those issues I mentioned before are non-issues in OpenMW. The engine makes far better use of modern PC resources, but is still able to run on much older machines. And with certain unofficial versions of OpenMW, because it's an open-sourced engine, anyone can edit it however they want. One such version is capable of running on Android. That's right, Morrowind on the go. Go figure. OpenMW even has a multiplayer fork called TES3 that we'll be getting into later. So as far as the actual program, OpenMW, it's downloaded and installed using your existing Morrowind installation as a base. From there, you'll be able to run OpenMW's launcher in order to play the game. That means OpenMW can be run independently of the Bethesda.net or Steam versions. So let's assume for a second you redeemed your code on Bethesda.net. You would hit the All Games tab, then scroll down until you found Morrowind. And whatever you do, for the love of God, do not install it in My Programs. That is a Windows trap. Doesn't matter if you're using Bethesda.net or any other platform. The steps here are the same. Simply install the game. So once you've begun installing Morrowind, go over to openmw.org, go to Downloads, and no matter what platform you downloaded Morrowind on, you'll be able to play Morrowind on Windows, Mac, or Linux through OpenMW. So take your pick as to which version you want. Alternatively, if you want to walk on the wild side, you can pick from the nightly versions as well, noting that the nightly versions have not been thoroughly tested, but may contain additional features, or you just want to help them test things out. Once both Morrowind and OpenMW are downloaded, go ahead and open up the OpenMW installer. Note that on Windows, you may get this error saying that Windows Defender or some other program has prevented it from running. You can hit run anyway, and you can install OpenMW anywhere you want. It does not need to be in a Morrowind folder. Once finished, make sure to run OpenMW, and you should get a pop-up with First Run. Sometimes First Run is not on the foreground, so you may have to go to your taskbar and pop it up, but it should be there. If you've never installed OpenMW before, it will require that you run the installation wizard or set up the files manually. For new users, I'd recommend the wizard. It will have you use an existing installation of Morrowind. Go ahead and hit browse and navigate to where Bethesda.net installed your Morrowind installation. Go to data files and select morrowind.esm. This is the main data file for Morrowind. Once you do that, it will appear on the list as detected installations. Go ahead and select next. Go ahead and import everything, although if you are installing brand new, there shouldn't be anything in these plugins. And once you do that, hit finish. You should now have the OpenMW launcher available. If you go to Data Files, Tribunal and Blood Moon should be selected. Under Graphics, you can set things as you see fit. For example, you could set full screen, or in my case, I much prefer windowed mode, but I would want a larger window available. something along the lines of 16 by 9. Depending on how good your computer is, you may want to take advantage of anti-aliasing to make the graphics look better. Finally, under advanced settings, I'd highly recommend going through this and factoring what kind of changes you want to the game. For example, toggle sneak is a great thing, and put sneak in line with the other Elder Scrolls games where you don't need to hold down the button. Third-person zoom allows you to more naturally with the mouse wheel control your character's camera. I like having time played on my saves. It lets me know how long I've been going through a playthrough. Normally there's only one quick save available. I like to put that up to 3. It's always good to have more than one quick save. It will overwrite the oldest quick save when making new quick saves. Quick load will always load the newest quick save, so keep that in mind. I'd go over to user interface and turn on show owned on tooltip and crosshair. This will cause both the tooltip and crosshair to turn red if you are mousing over something that belongs to someone else that they will consider stealing if you were to pick it up, so that you know, maybe I should be sneaking if I were going to pick this up. If you have a tendency to take a lot of screenshots, you may want to change the PNG format to JPEG. It will make the screenshots a lot smaller in terms of file size. However, they will have less quality to them, so decide which of the two. PNG is generally considered the optimal format. So download Morrowind from your website of choice, and then install OpenMW. Once OpenMW is installed, I'd recommend grabbing the Bethesda official plugins. These are mods made by Bethesda's developers as a way to test the construction set. And that construction set was the first time Bethesda released actual modding tools. There was modding for Daggerfall and modding for various other things, but those were hacks to the game. Either way, the official plugins include Firemoth Island, some new armors, and gadgets for the player. From there, that's it. I only recommend 2 mods for players who are just starting out. Otherwise, I'd recommend a mostly pure and vanilla experience. One of the 2 mods I'd recommend for brand new players is called the Patch for Purists. This is a variation on the Morrowind patch project. The original Morrowind patch project started as a project to fix some of the major bugs and broken quests with the game, but since then it's evolved into rebalancing parts of the game. And the Patch for Purists keeps all of the bug fixes, but omits those rebalancing and things like that, keeping a mostly vanilla experience except with the fixes. Because, you know, we can't have a Bethesda game without broken quests and things. When re-implementing Morrowind into the OpenMW engine, thankfully the developers didn't include all the engine bugs. Combine that with the Patch for Purists, and you've eliminated 99.9% of Morrowind's issues right away. Now, the second mod I'd recommend for brand new players is the Dark Brotherhood Delayed. You see, in modern versions of the game, it comes bundled with Tribunal and Blood Moon expansion packs. The Tribunal expansion pack was designed to be installed either mid or post playthrough, after you've beaten the main campaign. It definitely supports early campaign, and little bits of the storyline will be different, such as Azura's speech at the end. However, and this is important, the moment you install it, every time you sleep after that, the Dark Brotherhood has a chance of attacking you. This is a function of the story, and if you follow the storyline, will eventually lead you to Mournhold, where the Tribunal expansion takes place. The problem is this Dark Brotherhood assassin is adequately skilled to be a Dark Brotherhood assassin, and has a tendency of killing new players easily. A lot of people will exit out the gate, they'll go fight a couple monsters in the wilderness, then they'll rest. And while resting, the Dark Brotherhood assassin will kill them. But I've been playing the game for 10 minutes. Yeah, and a Dark Brotherhood assassin just killed you. That's the Tribunal expansion. Get used to it. Everything in that expansion pack is really geared toward mid to high level players. So it makes sense to install the Dark Brotherhood Delayed mod and delay those virtually unwinnable fights. Yeah, you can beat them if you know what you're doing, but Most new players don't know what they're doing, thus the recommendation for new players to have this mod. Now, the Dark Brotherhood Delayed mod specifically checks whenever you sleep to see if you've met certain conditions, like progress within the main quest and level, or significant progress like being the Archmage of the Mages Guild or, the leader of the Fighters Guild, so on, versus a certain level. And those trigger conditions will allow Dark Brotherhood people to spawn, but it allows you to be sufficiently prepared for something like that and have established yourself in the game world before Tribunal starts pummeling you with Dark Brotherhood assassins. I'm going to get into some other mods that you could install if you want a not so pure and not so vanilla game world experience. The mods I always use are Morrowind Rebirth, Tamriel Rebuilt, and Welcome to the Arena. The first of these three, Morrowind Rebirth, overhauls the land of Vardenfell significantly, expanding towns and villages, adding content everywhere, including new dungeons. It expands old dungeons and does a lot more. Depending on what plugin you use, it may alter races and birth signs as well. It rebalances a whole chunk of the game, and from what I've seen, it really maximizes the potential of Morrowind, and shows you what Morrowind could have been if the developers put more time and effort into it. In short, I would call it almost an idealized version of Morrowind. Next up, Tamriel Rebuilt lets you leave the island of Vardenfell and explore the mainland of Morrowind. It adds content to the lands east, southeast, and south of Vardenfell, adding new dungeons, new overworld, and a few quests to do. The most complete content lies to the east, but really everything they've added is worth exploring. Even if the looming specter of the main quest isn't affecting any of the other areas, it's more of an open-ended adventure guided by you, and this is especially great if you finish the main quest on Vardenfell and you want to have more content to explore. From there, I could start talking about Project Tamriel and how they've got Province Cyrodiil and Skyrim Home of the Nords that are being worked on, but those aren't quite up to the massive scale that Tamriel Rebuilt is yet. I would keep an eye on them as well, however, if you want to have additional adventures on your character in Morrowind. The last big mod I want to talk about is Welcome to the Arena. It adds a new faction to the game, the Arena Fighters of Vivec, and it just gives you that Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion-style arena, but backported to Morrowind. So you can join an arena team and raise in the ranks to become champion, face the grand champion in combat. There's not much to talk about here. You can earn money participating in fights, and the fights get progressively harder. Now, this mod does require a patch to work with OpenMW, but other than that, it's pretty good. I obviously have other extensive mod lists, some good, some bad, some great, some broken, over years of playing. Graphics enhancers, character replacers, new adventures, lots of other things that you could potentially get into in Morrowind. However, I've just listed the bare minimum of what I would use in every playthrough. In most cases, the first step to getting mods is to go to the Nexus, specifically nexusmods.com, and clicking register. Once you click register, you will be prompted to pick a package. This display of packages almost always drives away new users. They go, well, I don't want to pay for this. They don't realize they can scroll all the way down and just create an account without selecting a package. After that, you are free to create your account. Once your account is created, I would install either their mod manager or a mod manager of your choice and use it to install the appropriate mods. However, for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to do the worst thing possible, and I'm going to show you a manual installation. When installing any mods, you will go to your Morrowind installation, the one you downloaded on Bethesda.net or Steam or wherever, and go to your data files. After going to your data files, then we will install the mods directly into the data files. First, we'll look at the patch for purists for example. Extract everything from Patch for Purists into your data files. Same for the Dark Brotherhood attack delay. Once they are installed into your folder, so restart your OpenMW launcher, go to Data Files, and you will see the appropriate data files on your list. You can select them all, right-click, and click Check Selected, or check them individually as you see fit. You can drag files up and down. Note that I would prioritize the Dark Brotherhood attack mod over anything else due to how scripts affect the game. And that's pretty much it. There are other mods that I consider optional, like Morrowind Rebirth or Tamriel Rebuilt, and you will influence their load order by dragging them up or down. The further down you drag something, the more priority it has in the load. So content from Morrowind is getting overwritten by Tribunal, content by Tribunal is getting overwritten by Blood Moon, content by Blood Moon is getting overwritten by all of the Patch for Purists, and content from the Patch for Purists is getting overwritten by the Dark Brotherhood attack mod. In this way, by using priority, you can figure out any issues that you may have with mods. Most issues you have with mods are due to mods not being installed properly, not being checked, or being in the wrong order. I've just shown you how to fix the order part. Either way, at this point, you'd be free to play the game. Once it's loaded up, you can go to Options, and you can select your video settings from here. You can increase the field of view, something I like bringing up to about 90 personally, but it's up to personal preference. Skyrim has taught you that you want a low FOV, and almost every first-person shooter in the world has taught you that you want a high FOV. One of the first things I do is I go to the keyboard and mouse and I switch activate from spacebar to E and go over to jump and set that to spacebar. I was doing this when Morrowind was new because I was a first-person shooter player as well. Generally, they wanted spacebar to activate things because they wanted you interacting with the world more than anything else. But when it comes to movement, it makes a lot more sense to be able to do W and D and spacebar to be able to jump diagonally. I would also turn on subtitles and always use best attack, but in general, I would avoid messing with difficulty very much, unless you find the game to be too hard or too easy. Using the caps lock button by default, you can run at this point. Running will deplete your stamina in the open world, but it doesn't do very much in this situation. Unlike Skyrim and to a lesser degree Oblivion, the races are not just cosmetic. Your starting stats will greatly influence your ability to play the game. Bretons, for example, will have greater spell points than most of the other races. Half of their intellect will be added to their magicka pool. And in the case of High Elves, they will get 1.5 times their intellect and spell points, meaning High Elves are just amazing at magic. And this will carry over to the late game, too, because it's a multiplier. Now, in exchange for that, they do take more damage and are less able to resist the effects of magic. But if you're looking at, say, using long blades and you pick a red guard, well, now you've got a plus 15 skill bonus in long blades, meaning those long blades are going to hit enemies far more reliably. Same thing with wood elves using the marksman skill. I could go on, however, the point is the different races are better at different things, and understanding that will make your game a lot easier. When creating your character, I always recommend filling out the forms yourself, creating a custom class. So in the custom class creator, you will be able to name your class, you'll be able to choose your specialization. All of the skills will raise faster in your specialization, and they'll get +5 to them. So combat includes, obviously, your weapon skills, armor skills. Magic includes not only all of the schools of magic, but also alchemy, enchanting, and unarmored. So if you choose to wear robes and you want to mitigate damage while wearing just clothing or robes and not armor, then unarmored is going to be under magic. Stealth covers light armor, all of the social skills, hand-to-hand, daggers, and marksman, as well as the obvious thief skills, like sneak and security. You'll notice that every skill has a governing attribute. Your favorite attributes should in some way represent that. You will get plus 10 to your favorite attributes. I would say the second most effective way to reliably hit enemies is to use agility as one of your primary attributes. Not only is there a bonus to your hit roll, but also to your maximum fatigue. And when your fatigue is out, you will fail skill checks. Keep that in mind. But no matter what your custom class, no matter what skills you chose or stats, you'll be able to click class description and put in notes for yourself about any notes you need to remember about the class. It's also a good way to show off on live streams or things like that. I find this is a good place to write a little bit of your character's history, personally, so that you can remind yourself what your character was doing before they came to Morrowind, or what their goals are, things of that nature. Now, the birth signs will have a permanent influence on how you play your character. They are very important. For example, if you're playing a mage character, the apprentice is probably the best birth sign you can pick. However, it will cause you to have weakness to magic. Understanding that is vital in how you play, because you need to be afraid of big fireballs or paralysis or things of that nature, but at the same time, you have a lot more magicka to work with. If you chose a Breton or a High Elf, and couple it with the apprentice, you'll be rolling in magicka. Let's say you rolled a red guard, and you gave them the sign of the warrior, which fortifies their attack by 10 points. That isn't great for magic. In fact, they will have to struggle and get their intellect up to maximum in order to cast even the most basic spells. Whereas a Breton with the mage sign is going to get their intellect in magicka as a bonus. 0.5 from Breton, 0.5 from the mage sign. But remember that Bretons actually have a natural resistance to magicka as well, so if you go with the apprentice, that weakness isn't seeming that bad anymore, and you can actually combo those. Whereas if you're playing as a high elf, you already get 1.5 times into magicka. Maybe you don't want the extra weakness, and you go with the mage and just have a minor bonus. See, by comboing your birth signs together with your race, you can create a character that truly flows with your playstyle. However, I'm going to be honest, for anyone who doesn't know what kind of playstyle they really want to pick, and they're pretty sure they just want to hit things with a weapon and make them die, anyone who's new to the game, I would recommend the Lover. The Lover gives you the ability to apply Lover's Kiss to a target once per day, which will paralyze the target, make it unable to move. It will also damage the target's fatigue by 200 points, causing most enemies to be unable to hit you after the paralysis wears off because their fatigue is empty. They are tired now. And that makes one fight per day pretty damn easy. That's actually not why I recommend the Lover, though. That's just the icing on the cake. The cake itself is the Fortify attribute Agility by 25 points. If you don't choose Agility as one of your primary stats in your custom class creation, well, guess what? You can make it up here. And now you've got easy mode. You're probably going to hit enemies far more reliably than any other setup if you have this. So if you're going melee, the Lover is almost easy mode for starting the game. You're still going to miss, yes, but you aren't going to miss all the time. So the Lover is the cure for most players' issues. Obviously, if you want a long-term solution, you should go with something that supports you over time, like the Mage, for example. So you have more spell points to play with, and you just train your skills up, although it will be grueling in the beginning. You'll have to suffer through it, and most players who are new to the game will quit at this point because they find themselves unable to hit anything. So whether you're building for long-term or short-term, you're still going to be really powerful by the end. But Building your character is the singular most important part of playing Morrowind. Now, of course, if those three options aren't good enough for you, you can be a sissy and install Precise Attack. This mod will break the scaling of the game and make you able to hit enemies a vast majority of the time, provided you're not exhausted. Your hits will land no matter what your skill levels are versus whatever their defense levels are. How it works is it fires a one-time script that boosts your chance to hit modifier by 100. It's far less likely to break or fail than the more popular Accurate Attack mod. You'll be given one last opportunity to change anything you want. That includes your name, your race, your class, your sign, any of it. Scrolling down, you will actually be able to see the powers that you're given, any passive abilities that you've been given, and any spells that you have learned. For example, Restoration and Conjuration are major skills, and as a result, I know Bound Dagger from Conjuration, and I know Hearth Heal from Restoration, because those are major skills. So I will have a healing spell at my disposal right at the beginning of the game. The first thing you'll have to do is pick up your papers. This ensures that you understand how the Activate button works. Once you take it, you are now free. You'll have an inventory menu and access to all other menus. Notice that if you scroll down below your skills panel, you will actually see Reputation and Bounty. Now, between Sign and Reputation, in this area here, there will be information about factions you join in the game as well. From here, a lot of power gamers have a tendency to walk up to this limeware platter, pick it up, immediately drop it on the ground. We'll let your actions go for now, but once you're released, stuff like that will get you arrested. Don't do it again. And pick it up. You now have a limeware platter worth $6.50. This is a power gaming exploit. In mods like Morrowind Rebirth that overhaul the entire game world, this limeware platter is replaced with a virtually worthless redware platter. The game does various tutorials, such as giving you a dagger. You will notice that this is not considered stolen goods. Now, once you get outside, a map will appear in the bottom corner of your screen. At this point, you should go to your menu, and once you've opened up your menu, size the map exactly how you want it. Drag it into the top corner, then click the little X box in the corner to pin it in place. Once you do that, and you exit the menu, the map will remain. And you now have a detailed map, as opposed to the little, practically worthless map you had before. I would recommend going through all of the dialogue trees. Most of the information you will learn about in the world comes from going through the dialogue with people. And you will learn quite a bit about the world, including lots of lore that Oblivion kind of forgot about. Most unfortunate, isn't it? But either way, your duties are to go find Caius. You'll notice that it says you are on your own now, good luck. This is an important point in the game where you are able to do minor side objectives. One of the most popular things to do is obviously to give Fargoth back his ring, and then go into the trade house and pick up a quest to find Fargoth's hiding spot. I'll leave those details to you. However, behind the lighthouse, you will find a stump. Inside that stump is an iron shard axe. This is just one example of many of hidden items that you can find. The shard axe was replaced in Morrowind Rebirth, along with many other easily exploitable items. Because again, Morrowind Rebirth seeks to rebalance and rebuild the entirety of the game. Exploit it while it's there. If you are enjoying Morrowind Rebirth like I almost always do, then you will not have that opportunity. Whether you decide to do minor quests in Saint Denis or not is entirely up to you. Whether you choose to just run off into the wilderness or not is entirely up to you. However, my personal recommendation is to make a right turn and you will see the Silt Strider in the distance. Now, there is a dungeon to the left if you want to start exploring and raiding places. However, my personal recommendation is, again, to take the Silt Strider service, travel, Balmora. Once you arrive in Balmora, go to the corner of Balmora, where you will find Caius's house. Speaking to Caius, he will start you off on your path as an agent for the Imperial Blades. You will be one of the Empire's spies. The first task he gives you is to get yourself a decent weapon or armor or spell, and get yourself a cover identity as a freelance adventurer. In other words, he wants you to sign on with the Fighters Guild, Mages Guild, Imperial Cult, Imperial Legion, Tribunal Temple, or Great Houses. He wants you to get involved in this land and act as if you belong here, because you aren't really of use as an atrophied prisoner. So he's pretty much telling you, hey, become an adventurer, go explore the land. You've gotten 200 free drakes. At this point, I would advise against continuing the main quest with Caius. I would instead recommend taking him up on his orders, where he tells you to go build a cover life for yourself. In other words, explore Morrowind. Head on off. Enjoy. Now, if you want to play with other players, you can always use TES3 MP. It is a wonderful experience, and I highly recommend it. TES3 MP is some of the most fun I've ever had in Morrowind. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's Morrowind multiplayer. You see, OpenMW being an open source engine, they created a fork of it for multiplayer. So this is like another version of OpenMW, but specifically for multiplayer. Now, important things to know about TES3 MP is if you want to run a server, you will need the exact same load orders with the exact same plugin files. What will happen when you try to connect to a server is TES3 MP will check the hashes to ensure that everyone has the exact same mods synced up exactly the same way between the client and the server. Now, people using Morrowind Rebirth with TES3 MP will notice that the player's spawn spot is occupied by a building. The server owner will have to open up one of TES3 MP's files in a text editor and change the spawn spot for players to ensure that players joining the server don't spawn inside a new building. If you have any questions about TES3 MP, I would forward you to the official Discord server and Steam group, and I'll make sure to have those linked below. In terms of personal playstyles, I tend to have the most fun in a variant of the Spellblade or Battle Mage. I would absolutely recommend that any player playing pick Mysticism as a major or minor skill in order to acquire the intervention spells to teleport you to the nearest temple, as well as make use of the mark and recall spells in order to set a location and teleport back to it whenever you want. I would say that those spells enhance the game quite a bit. I could gush about this game for hours, but I figured this little bit of information would help folks who just got Morrowind on Bethesda's offer and want to play the best, most stable version of it possible. Again, there are other setups with graphics or, alternate combat systems or various other quality of life utility tweaks. But those can wait for another video, or you can watch one of my playthroughs on Twitch. I always have my mod lists on my website, so you could steal what you want from there. So I hope that information helps. Thank you all for watching. More videos to come, and I will see y'all next time. All right. We're just going to chill out here, wait for Khan to get in.
Yeah, I'm a simple Nord. I was outsmarted by the door.
Oh my.
You actually have to pull the lever before the door opens.